Good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order for October the 3rd for St. John Common Council. Thank you all for coming tonight. And we get the first item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement.
Over to you, Councillor Killen.
Thank you, Deputy. On the land which the City of St. John, or Menaquist, is situated is the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik. The Wolastoqiyik, along with their indigenous neighbors, the Mi'kmaq and the Pescataway, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s that protected their rights to land and resources.
Thank you. Next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next, we have the national anthem.
Thank you to the St. John Youth Orchestra for playing our national anthem tonight. Next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be minutes of September the 6th.
Okay, could I get a motion to accept the minutes for September the 6th, please? Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Norton on the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
Next item is approval of the agenda. Although there are no any additions coming from Committee of the Whole, there is one item that we emailed to council members earlier for item 5.5. It was a letter that attached to the municipally designated highways. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment of 5.5 attachment? Councillor Radwan and Councillor Stewart. Okay, on the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. Next item.
Next is disclosures of conflict of interest, if there are any.
Okay, Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Deputy. I'd just like to declare a conflict on 9.3. Am I able to say why?
9.3.
It's a public hearing.
Okay.
I've always had, and I continue to have very opposing views for cremation. And so just to be ethical going into a public hearing, you have to remain unbiased. So I want to be fair to the applicant and declare a conflict on it.
Okay, thank you. Any other conflicts? Okay, next item.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda.
Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Deputy. I'll move items 5.1 through 5.5 inclusive.
Okay, I get a second there? Second. Stuart, on the question? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Next item.
Next is members' comments.
Okay, Councillor Hickey, you start us off.
That was fast. I didn't expect to be first. Thanks very much, Your Worship. I just wanted to note that our provincial tax assessments came out today. Hopefully not everyone got as much of a shock as I did at a 30% increase. But I want to highlight a couple things. I did some rough math, and the St. John Regional Hospital had a higher tax rate increase, or sorry, not tax, had a higher assessment increase than the Port, the LNG, Irving Oil Headquarters, JDI Wallboard, Irving Oil Blending and Packaging, 300 Union, Brunswick Square, Brunswick House, Ocean Steel, the West Side Rail Yard, the Cook Headquarters, the pulp mill, and the refinery combined. Tell me something's not broke with our assessment system. And yet, many of us, I know around this table, are talking about 20% plus on just our residences. And I'm sure St. Johners are feeling it. I know this council is going to be there when it comes to doing what we can to make sure that our tax rate is reflective of that so that we're supporting citizens as much as possible. Something's broken here and we got to make sure it gets fixed. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just anybody's noticing, got the Alpines hat tonight. Go Pines. 21-year drought's ended. So the boys brought home the title the other night, Memorial Field. It was great to see. Congratulations to Terry and the team, and it was quite a memorable moment. Matt Nason pitched a no-hitter, first time in provincial senior men's baseball history. Local kid, he was in diapers, I guess, the Telegraph Journal said when when he was born, when the Alpines last won the title. So cool to see them, but it is an interesting year for us. We've gotten now 4 pretty major championships. I know the Little League, the Pirates, they won a pretty major championship. We've got senior women's rugby. They won a provincial championship. U17 women rugby won a provincial championship, and of course, Memorial Cup. So anyway, it's an interesting, magical year for St. John, and just wanted to wish the Alpines the best in the next season, and congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy. Just to follow up on Councillor Hickey's comments on tax assessments, just for folks who are listening, please be assured your finance group, staff, committee, are certainly taking a hard look at the numbers, and we've got a lot of work to do before we get into the budget. So your raise in tax assessment times your tax rate becomes what you actually pay. So one of our long-term goals in our financial plan is to continue to work in opportunities to reduce the tax rate. So we will continue to work at that. So we're okay. Really, if you think about things, the way the housing market has been the last couple of years, St. John was probably in a little bit of a catch-up mode now anyway, so it really is reflecting what's going on. But we still have more work to do before you actually get your tax bill. Second, for those of you who are council watchers and would like to be more involved, the city is calling for applications to our agencies, boards, commissions, and committees. In particular, we are looking for folks to join the Rockwood Park Endowment Fund, the St. John Free Public Library, and you could have an opportunity to spend time with Councillor Lowe and myself on PAC. So if that's appealing to you, we would encourage you to go to stjohn.ca and look to put in your applications to be considered. And finally, just your reminder that we want to be healthy, we want to be kind to each other, so use good science-based health practices like washing your hands, sneezing into your elbow pit, social distancing. Watch for those cues for people who might be wearing masks. They could be immunocompromised, and you want to respect their space and wishes as well. And as Councillor next to me keeps saying, and just a good reminder, be kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Kellen.
Thank you so much, Deputy. I just want to say congratulations and, thank you to Sam Das and Cheyenne Saha, both from two different organizations, the Indo Society of St. John and the Gujarati Society of New Brunswick, who put on an incredible show and celebration at the Fieldhouse this weekend for the Navaratri celebrations. It was beautiful. There's videos on Facebook if you weren't able to attend. Lots of folks, great display of culture and celebration in our dear city. I also have, I just want to thank the neighborhood developers who joined us at Growth Committee this week. We heard from folks from all the priority neighborhoods who are doing this on the ground work to ensure that those in our community know what services are out there, can access them. They help people with tax returns. They do a ton of work, and they're a small team of 5, so their presentations were really impactful this week. And on that note, I do want to bid a very fond farewell to the Director of Growth and Community Services, Director Phil Ouellette, who I've gotten to work closely with as Growth Chair. We will sorely miss you there to be supporting us on all of these fantastic initiatives that you helped kick off with us, and especially me in the first year and a half of my tenure here. So huge congratulations on your new role as CEO of the Regional Service Commission, and we will miss you, but look forward to seeing what you do in the future. And thank you so much, Phil, for all the hard work.
Thank you, Councillor Kellen. Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's comments around tax assessment. I know a lot of people are feeling the crunch, and I might be one of the only crazy people that got excited about seeing a big hike, because I thought, wow, I bought my house 5 years ago. I could sell it for $100,000 more today. That's exciting, even though I'm going to have to dig a little deeper. Just wanted to mention that there's a few of us that got to the Boys and Girls Club fundraising event, and they do so many great things in our neighborhood to help our youth. It was wonderful. Also, the Compassionate Grief Center is going to be holding their fundraising event on October the 15th at 6 o'clock at the Quispam Lions Club. And our Champlain Heights Association is having their annual general meeting. It is going to be held at the Champlain Heights School at 7 p.m. October the 11th, and they're hoping to get a really good turnout from the community. Unfortunately, Deputy, I do have to mention something that was very, very, very concerning to me. Forest Hills Playground equipment was burnt on Saturday night. There was a piece of the equipment that was torched, and as we all know, this equipment's, the different pieces of equipment can cost well over $100,000. The city is trying to invest more and more over there, but pretty hard to get the investments over there when people are burning things down. They also had 7 windows put out at the school. They were brand new windows as well. So I encourage any residents, if you do have any information, any surveillance information, to please contact St. John Police at 648-3333. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radwan. Councillor Norton.
Hats off to Chuck Teed and the Friends of Seaside Park. They did a fantastic job over the last 3 years as it relates to investments, people investment, and resource investment into Seaside Park, which was a UNESCO heritage site at one time, still is. And in concert with Sculpture SJ has a new sculpture that's featured in that. So a new arc going into Seaside Park, along with a new sculpture, along with some deep paving initiatives through ACAP St. John. You're starting to see that park adjacent to Seaside School start to come to life as a district park. It's a neighborhood park and with some of the best vistas in St. John. So if you get a chance to get over there, check it out. But thank you to Chuck and his team, Friends of Seaside Park. Also, ACAP St. John, October 16th. Look, everyone's busy, but if you still want to get one last date in at the beach, October 16th, Dominion Park Beach, there's a cleanup through ACAP St. John. And I hate to call it the Dominion Park Beach Community because folks over there would say, no, it's Randolph Island. So it's a Randolph Island community cleanup. So in concert with ACAP St. John to leave the beach better than we found it, so we can open it right back up and spread out those beach towels. So that's great. Also, a quick shout out to the General Counsel's Office for their work as it relates to truth and reconciliation, whether it's leading staff or whether it's leading council. A number of initiatives, teach-ins here, professional learning there. You've certainly moved the conversation forward in our understanding. And it was an important event that happened this past Friday. And thank you for your leadership, you and your team, Melanie. So appreciate it. Last but not least, Miss Casey up there featured Duck Cove community and her team as part of the latest St. John's story series. So Lisa, thank you to you and your comms team. If you just want a quick read aloud to anybody in your family, that's the story to read. And there's some fantastic people that were featured in there that honestly go to no extent to make sure that their neighborhood is a great place to be. So shout out to the Duck Cove community group for a great story that's featured in the St. John Story Series. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Councillor Norton, and I'll definitely echo your remarks, all your remarks, especially for General Counsel's participation in Truth and Reconciliation. It was truly a moving event at the City Market on Friday, and thank you very much for that. Also want to mention that this morning I was honored to welcome over 350, possibly 400 delegates into St. John for the Atlantic Canada Water and Wastewater Association. I just want to say, welcome to St. John. I hope you have a great time while you're here. And I want to thank Barb Crawford and Mike Baker for their participation in getting this thing organized and bringing everybody into town. And leave it at that, I guess. I also like to take the opportunity to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving coming up next Monday. There won't be council, so I'll take that opportunity now and hope that you and yours have a very peaceful, happy Thanksgiving to celebrate. Next item, Common Clerk.
Deputy Mayor, we're a few minutes before a 6:30 advertised public hearing, so I would recommend we move to the committee reports and perhaps deal with a couple of those items. I'd be looking for input from the fire chief or public safety committee chair with respect to item 13.1. We have about 8 minutes. Would that be sufficient time to deal with those items?
Councillor Hickey?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm not quite ready for it, but just one second. Okay, so for 13.1, which I believe is the reduced speed limits on neighborhood streets, at our meeting this last year, 5 commitments were made to improve the safety of St. John's streets through a combination of education, enforcement, and engineering. All 5 of these have been substantially completed. On one of the five commitments was to take action on a common request we received from the community, which was lower speed limits on neighborhood streets to below the default 50 kilometers an hour limit to be consistent with national best practices, with policy direction through our own transportation plan, Move SJ, and through specific direction from the Public Safety Committee and Common Council in 2021, a recognized industry guideline was used to assess appropriate speed limits on a total of 21 neighborhood streets. The report comes with a recommendation to amend the city's traffic bylaw that would lower 14 of St. John's neighborhood streets to a 40-kilometer-per-hour speed limit, which has already been endorsed by the Public Safety Committee. And the list is there for your recognition, and there will be further additions to this list as the Public Safety Committee moves forward.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion on the recommendation?
Yes.
Can I get a
I mean,
motion?
I'll move.
You'll move it, okay, and seconded by Joanna. Okay, on the question?
So, Deputy Mayor, this would be for the first reading of the bylaw change?
Okay.
Okay, so we have a mover and seconder, and have you called the question?
On the question? Okay. So all in favor? Signify by saying aye. Good. I thought you all had questions. Okay, go ahead.
So the title of this bylaw is a bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting traffic on streets in the city of St. John. Now we would require a second motion to give second reading by title.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Lowe, all on the question? All in favor? All against? Motion carried.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting traffic on streets in the city of St. John. We still have 5 minutes, Deputy Mayor, so I'd suggest we move to item 13.2, another Public Safety Committee update with respect to traffic calming policy updates.
Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Speeding is a consistent and growing concern within our community. Recommendations before Council this evening are intended to expedite response to this concern through the implementation of a pilot project in 2023 using one specific type of traffic calming device known as speed cushions. While we continue to work to respond to the growing speeding concern, we need to remain focused on streets only where there is documented excessive speeding. We prioritize response to areas of greatest risks for the community as a whole. We remain focused on physical traffic calming solutions that have a proven track record of success, and we can continue to consider the net community and service impacts with implemented traffic calming solutions. The report before you this evening comes with 2 recommendations. One is to prioritize vulnerable populations in prioritizing traffic calming projects, and the second seeking endorsement of an expedited traffic calming pilot project, including the focused use of speed cushions. Both recommendations have already been endorsed by the Public Safety Committee.
Okay, thank you.
We're
Very good.
available for.
Moving the recommendation, Councillor Killen, seconder, Councillor Ogden. Okay, on the question, all in favor? What? Oh, Councillor Redmond, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Deputy. I just have a couple of questions probably for Director O'Reilly, I would think. I just wanted to get an idea, especially for the sake of the public, how many traffic calming requests do we currently have? And I know it says in the report that we're dealing with 2 to 3 of them a year. So just wondering, I mean, obviously there would be a range depending on what you're going to do, but what kind of investments are we making every year, if you can speak to any of that at all?
Sure. So on average, in previous years, we received about 20 requests for traffic calming throughout the community. 2021 is about 5 times that amount. In 2021 alone, so over 100, and about 3 times the amount we're trending so far for this year. So significant growth in requests. In terms of investments that the city has made in traffic calming over the years, our main focus has been around schools. So every middle and elementary school within the city now has traffic calming elements associated with it, except of course for a couple that need some capital investments. So the purpose for this report is actually move beyond school zones because we've completed all those and start to get into traffic calming around neighborhood streets and focus in places where people live within the community.
And I'm also just kind of wondering, like, obviously, like, that's more requests than we're obviously able to handle. So how do we get a handle on it? Like, what is there any other cities that are doing anything that, you know, would allow these numbers to come down?
So I do a lot of consultations with other communities, Moncton, Fredericton, Halifax as good local examples, and we're all experiencing more requests than we can handle. So we all, including St. John, go through a process of first identifying of those concerns, which ones actually have documented speeding. Unfortunately, sometimes the request comes in and it's not necessarily speeding or enough of it to actually warrant a solution. So the first step is to identify if there is speeding. And then we have a prioritization system in place, again, measuring different impacts within the community to make sure that we're targeting the most appropriate streets first. So again, all these communities are experiencing more requests than we have, but we all have systems in place to deal with the issues at hand, but also prioritize, and then obviously implement solutions that actually have a good chance of success to bring the speeds down.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harris?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director Tim, can you tell me, how do we ensure we're I guess from what I've noticed around this traffic calming conversation and the different articles that are out there and research that's now available, it seems like the landscape's changing quite a bit on how we address it. So I guess what are we doing to ensure the strategies, plans we have in place are keeping up with evidence-based decision making around what you're getting at, like we're ensuring that it's going to accomplish the task? I guess that, I'll just leave that open-ended for now.
Yeah. So the focus of the report tonight is definitely on retrofitting existing streets. So we have existing neighborhood streets that we don't want to leave, too long to address. But certainly in the larger strategies within the city, our planning strategies, starting back with the municipal plan, of course, the South Central Peninsula that talks a lot about the complete streets model and working on other forms of transportation. That's built into that. We're looking at our capital program now. We have a big focus, obviously, the next 5 years around the peninsula, and we took a hard look, and you'll see each of those reports going forward with often recommendations to narrow the width of the street, because street narrowing is one way to slow people down and obviously reduce the amount of asphalt we have to look after year. Then, of course, we have Move SJ, the transportation plan that brings that all together in terms of moving forward. So each of these strategic plans are aligned, and you'll see even the overall strategic plan for the city, you'll actually see some components in there as well. So we're definitely aligning all those corporate strategies in line with, again, efforts at ensuring that our streets are as safe as possible for our community.
Thanks.
Okay, can I call the question then? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried. And it's next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's now 6:31, and we have public hearings that have been advertised. So the first item under public hearings, Section 9 on the agenda is 9.1, and this is for a proposed Section 59 amendment with a PAC recommendation and staff presentation for 1461 Loch Lomond Road.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing.
We're going to turn it over to the commissioner.
Oh, we're going to, okay. Director-elect, okay. Phil, Director-elect, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. Before you for a public hearing this evening is an application for Section 59 amendment that was submitted by Paul Falkins for the property located at 1461 Loch Lomond Road. The application is seeking to amend the Section 59 condition that limits the number of dwelling units on the site to 8 to allow for the construction of a 12-unit building. The application has been evaluated by staff and the Planning Advisory Committee, and included in your package are recommendations of approval with conditions. The committee adopted an amended recommendation with additional conditions relating to building facade design and pedestrian connectivity. Staff are in agreement with the committee's amendments. I'll turn it over to Thomas Llewellyn, one of our new planners in the Growth and Community Services team, for the staff presentation.
Hello. So this proposal is for 1461 Loch Lomond Road. It's a Section 59 amendment. Currently, the Section 59 limits it to an 8-unit residential building, and the applicant is seeking to increase that to 12 units. It is zoned RM, mid-rise residential, so the increase is not out of the question. And as well, it aligns with the municipal plan. It's pretty straightforward overall. We did receive 4 letters in total, 3 against and 1 in support as of today. What else did I have? We had also talked with infrastructure and building, and they have no concerns for the increase either. Traffic study wasn't necessary. And overall, PAC had added some conditions relating to the frontage along Loch Lomond Road, so people could enter from the front, as well as design characteristics that aligned with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll open the public hearing right now, and I'll call, is there anybody here that would like to speak against the proposal, the application? Is there anybody here that would like to speak against the application? For the third time, is there anybody here that would like to speak against the application? Okay, is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of the application? Oh, you want to come up and give us your name, sir? And do you want to come up to the mic and give us your name and your address?
My name is Paul Falkins. I'm the owner. I'd like to have it rezoned from an 8-unit building to a 12. I went around seeing the neighbors. I didn't hear any complaints or anything, and everything seemed to be in line. It's not gonna be lined in gold or anything, but it's gonna be a nice building, and it's gonna be a very affordable building.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fulkins. I don't see any questions. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, is there any questions for staff? Questions for staff? Okay. So now I just asked for.
Thank you, Deputy. So now, next we would require, if you've closed the public hearings that you had and asked for any questions to staff, now council can proceed with voting on this matter.
Okay. Could I, all those in favor of the application, please signify by saying.
So there are 2 motions required, Deputy Mayor. The first
Okay.
would be to rescind the previous Section 39 condition, and then a new motion to adopt the Section 59 the Section 59 recommendation that's before you in your package.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion is carried. And second, Stuart? Okay, on the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Okay. Thank you. Next item, Confer.
So next item, Deputy Mayor, is 9.2 on your agenda, and this is a proposed Section 59 amendment with the PAC recommendation and staff presentation for 69 Russell Street, and Director Willett will provide a brief introduction.
Okay, over you, Director Willett.
This evening's second public hearing is for Section 59 amendment, application that was submitted by John Hosford for the property located at 69 Russell Street. The application is seeking to amend the Section 59 condition that limits the size of the building and number of seats in the establishment. Staff and PAC are recommending approval for the Section 59 amendment. I'll turn it over to Eva Matson, another one of our new planners in the Growth and Community Services team, for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Phil. So this application does involve a proposal to remove former Section 59s that limited the building to the existing footprint. The applicant would like to add an addition because his building in his business has expanded beyond capacity, and he does need to expand. The the addition would not go against any of, or wouldn't have any impacts on the neighborhood. It wouldn't have any impacts on its own parking or anything like that. And it would be appropriate for the neighborhood setting and the zoning. The addition would also be appropriate for the municipal plan, which supports the expansion of restaurants in the commercial corridor. It also aligns with the zoning. So our recommendation is to remove the former Section 59s and then just put a couple on that would help limit any impacts on neighborhood or any future expansions of the business. So we are in alignment with PAC's recommendation of rescinding those existing Section 59 conditions and imposing the new ones. Thank you. And the
Okay.
applicant is here for any questions you have.
Okay. So I'm going to open the public hearing now, and I'll ask for anyone who wants to speak against the application. Anyone who wants to speak against the application? And third and final time, anyone who wants to speak against the application? Okay. I'll ask, is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of the application? Yes, sir.
Hi,
State
I'm John
your name and
Hosford.
your address?
I'm John Hosford.
John, and your address?
What's that?
Your address?
Where I live?
Yeah,
1859 Old Black River Road.
okay. Go ahead.
We've gotten an overflow of people coming through the door. We line them up and they sit there for 15, 20 minutes and then they leave. It's a smaller place. We've got a little bit of land on the front side street that we can do an addition to. And we'd really like to be able to, put an addition on to add another 15 seats or so. So definitely in favor, of course, so. It's just a small room. I mean, it's not magnificent or anything, but it'll help the business, obviously. More
Okay.
seating.
All right, any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll call again for anyone wanting to speak in favor of the application. And the last time, anyone wanted to speak in favor of the application? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and open the floor to staff question. No questions for staff? Okay. So on the,
So Deputy Mayor, in this situation, same as previous, we would require two motions, one to rescind previous Section 39 conditions, and then a separate motion to adopt the Section 59 conditions that are before you in your package.
okay, Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Lowe. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. On the Section 59, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Lowe. On the question, all those in favor? Any against? Motion's carried. Next item.
And the final item in the public hearings, Deputy Mayor, is 9.3. This is for a proposed municipal plan and zoning bylaw amendment with a planning advisory committee recommendation and staff presentation for 1556 Manwagonish Road. And again, Director Ouellette will give a brief introduction.
Okay, over to you, Director.
The third public hearing this evening is for a municipal plan amendment and rezoning for the expansion of the Cedar Hill Cemetery at 1556 Manawagonish Road. The application is seeking to amend the municipal plan designation and zoning to allow for an expansion of the cemetery. The application has been evaluated by staff and the Planning Advisory Committee included in your package, and our recommendations are for approval. I'll turn it over to our Manager of Community Planning, Jennifer Kirshner, for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Phil. Deputy Mayor, members of council, I'm here before you to give an overview of an application to amend the municipal plan and to rezone land located at 1556 Manawagonish Road. The proposal is in order to facilitate the expansion of the existing Cedar Hill Cemetery, which is currently running out of space for their business. There is an example of what the future layout could look like. It is a work in progress. They do have additional approvals through the province to go through after the rezoning and plan amendment have been completed. The existing cemetery is rather flat surface. The land does extend rather far beyond the existing cemetery boundaries, although it is heavily treed and the topography is not conducive to the proposed use. The cemetery has been in existence for approximately 100 years and is reaching capacity. The images shown before you do show the area that the cemetery would expand into. The most notable neighbor would be the city's water tower. And the area that they'd expand into would be an area of land that is already cleared and is rather flat surface. The land beyond that is a former quarry and would not really be conducive to any future use at this time. The property is currently designated stable residential and would be required to be redesignated to park and natural area. Within our municipal plan, there is not one consistent zone or designation where cemeteries occur, but the best practice would be to align it with the existing use. And I will note that there are requirements for cities to consider cemeteries as part of a functional use within a community, much like schools or hospitals. So while we do not explicitly show in our municipal plan where expansion or new cemeteries should be developed, it is something that needs to be considered as part of a complete community. The zoning is currently zoned R2. And all cemeteries within the city are zoned park. Cemeteries are considered part of our broader open space network and do play a key role in some of our cultural landscapes as well. We did notify the neighbors of this, and we did not have any concerns raised at PAC. We are proposing the approval of municipal plan amendment and the rezoning with a few section 59 conditions added. During our circulation, it was noted that an existing water main is located in a portion of the site on its easternmost boundary. So it essentially runs from Manwagonish Road to our water tower. What is being proposed is the registration of necessary easements and right-of-ways to formally identify where the water main is and to have an easement on either side to provide formal protection. And as well, we have requested and have worked with the applicant to determine that no burials should take place within 20 meters of the center line. This would provide protection not only to the water main, but also to the integrity of any burials and the expansion of the cemetery as well. It limits risk in case the water main is damaged in any capacity. PAC was also supportive of the staff recommendation, so we are completely in alignment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open the public hearing then, and I'll call for anyone who wants to speak against the application. Anyone who would like to speak against the application? And for the third time, anyone who wants to speak against the application? Okay. I'll call anyone who wants to speak for the application.
My name is Donna Gray. I'm the Executive Director of Cedar Hill Greenwood Cemetery. And first, I'd like to thank Jennifer for the great work she has done on our behalf. We're excited to be able to expand our Cedar Hill Extension Cemetery. We call the area of the expansion The View. On one side, you have a view of South Bay, on the other, the Bay of Fundy. A safety fence has been installed since the back and right side have a sharp drop-off. Some work has been completed to clear and level the land. At this point, in the Extension Cemetery, we have a few scattered lots, and our columbarium niches are sold out. Our intention in the upcoming years is to have a columbarium village with possibly 7 columbariums housing 550 to 600 double niches. Plus, we have the space for approximately 172 traditional lots. Cremation burials now exceed 70%. The next step after the rezoning approval is to have the province of New Brunswick approve the cemetery expansion. This expansion will secure our financial future for many years to come.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the application? And one more time, anyone else want to speak in favor of the application? No, so I'll close the public hearing. Is there any questions for staff? Okay, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. In this instance, there are 5 resolutions required. The first would be found in the PAC recommendation to adopt that.
Okay, can I get a motion to adopt? Okay, Councillor Norton, Councillor Law on the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any, motion is carried.
Next would be a approval of reading of the municipal plan by title for first and second reading. So 2 motions on that.
Okay, a motion to read by title. Councillor Hickey, Councillor Norton on the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried.
A law to amend the municipal plan bylaw. And again, for second reading, we need another motion.
Can I get a motion for the second reading, please? Councillor Killen and Councillor Norton. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried.
A law to amend the municipal plan bylaw. And now we require 2 motions for the zoning reading by title. So a motion for first reading and a motion for second reading.
Okay, can I get a motion for the first reading, please? Councillor Killen, Councillor Norton. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried.
Law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John. And another motion for second reading by title.
Okay, can I get a motion for second reading by title? Councillor Lowe and Councillor Sullivan. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay. Next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next on the agenda is under consideration of bylaws. It's item 10.1 on your agenda, and this is for an updated solid waste bylaw.
Okay, over to you, Commissioner Huguenot.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Before you this evening are changes to our solid waste bylaw to enable the new collection model. Some of the specific changes are detailed in the report, but they do include the permissible containers, collection limits, the bag tags, and the new solid waste collection schedules. The new model is intended to begin later this month, specifically the week of October 23rd, and our team is working very hard towards that deadline. Some of the carts and totes are still being delivered in these days, and those deliveries include some information for residents about the new program. I do anticipate there will be questions that you may get from your constituents as this does roll out, and I would suggest that your best resource for information would probably be the WasteWise page on the Shape Your City site. That does include a lot of information about the program. Includes a lengthy list of frequently asked questions, and hopefully will include most of the information that you may be asked. But if there are questions that you do have or you do receive that are not on that page, I would encourage you to reach out to the project team members, including Director O'Reilly, the Manager of Solid Waste, and myself as well. So with that, I will turn it over to the City Clerk for the required readings.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So for this item, there's just 2 readings required. Readings by title for this bylaw. So 2 separate motions, one for first reading by title and another motion for second reading by title.
Okay, can I get a motion for first reading? Councillor Hickey and Councillor Radwan. On the question, all those in favor, saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. And that's
A bylaw for the collection and disposal of solid waste in the City of St. John.
okay. So now I need a second motion. Yep. Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Harris. On the question, All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any, motion's carried.
A bylaw for the collection and disposal of solid waste in the city of St. John.
Okay. Next item, Council Clerk.
Next item is item 12.1 on your agenda. This is city manager update on select catalytic projects in advocacy.
Okay, over to you, Acting City Manager.
Yes, Your Worship, members of council. At its meeting on May 18, 2022, council endorsed 5 high-impact initiatives as the City of St. John's top priorities for catalytic growth. And this included 4 infrastructure projects, including the Central Peninsula Learning Commons, Fundy Quay, a new comprehensive recreational facility, and investment in industrial parks. Council also endorsed 4 advocacy projects: comprehensive tax reform, matching dollars for bilateral funding, affordable housing, and post-secondary education. While we continue to make progress on all of these files, there are a few updates that are timely and relevant for tonight given Council's agenda. The first is related to the delivery of a major milestone related to affordable housing. Tonight, we are pleased to deliver the city's Affordable Housing Action Plan, which was endorsed by Growth Committee last week and has received the support of community partners through the citizen-led Affordable Housing Action Team. The plan that is before council approval this evening is a game changer for the city, and working with our community partners will provide a framework to accelerate policy, advocacy, and governance reform, added investment, while maintaining momentum on short-term actions that drive change to address urgent needs facing our community with respect to affordable housing. The second update relates to the comprehensive recreational facility. Progress has also been made on one of the key infrastructure projects, a new comprehensive recreation facility, in terms of the development of a fiscally responsible funding plan. This will be briefed to council later in the agenda, but I'm pleased to share that a proposed funding plan has been endorsed by Finance Committee and is before you for consideration this evening to take the next step in this transformational project for St. John. Finally, progress continues to be made on Fundy Quay, another catalytic infrastructure project, with the seawall construction work nearing completion, as it is approximately 90 to 95% complete at this time. And with respect to the overall Fundy Quay project, additional design work is underway by the developer, and the site preparation work continues with the plan for the city portion of the work to be completed by the end of this year. Subject to any questions, that concludes my update this evening, and we are looking for a receive and file tonight.
Okay, can I first get a motion to receive and file, and a second? Councilor Odd and Councilor Harris on the question. Questions for staff? No? Okay, on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
Next on the agenda is item 12.2. This is a staff report, 2023 recreation initiatives.
Okay, over to you, Director Lott.
Through the Deputy Mayor to members of council, as part of the adopted 2022 work plan for the year, staff was tasked with the interesting project to investigate the introduction of 5 new recreational programs. I'm very excited to be before you today to announce that we've done our due diligence, and we're excited to share with you the 5 proposed new programs, which, as you'll appreciate, covers a cross-section of needs, geography, and communities in our community. I should also mention that these new programs are not meant to be the silver bullet to solve all recreational concerns and needs in the community. I see this as a starting point for council's commitment to reprioritize and reinvest into recreation. and I think it's a great start. Before I introduce the presenter, I did want to acknowledge the incredible work of Lori Lambert and Jen Reed in coordinating this, working with partners, identifying how this should be set up, and I think you will appreciate the work that's come into it through this presentation from the Manager of Community Services, Jen Reed. So with that, Jen.
Thank you, Director Ouellette. Deputy Mayor, Council, I am here to give an overview of the 5 new recreation initiatives. Just for a bit of a background, there we go. They were identified in the 10-year strategic planning process, and they were also identified in the 2022 corporate work plan for staff to identify 5 new or enhanced recreation programs to be implemented in 2023, either fully or partially. The introduction of the new programs, services, and recreation facilities will engage community in new and exciting ways. The 5 identified initiatives are designed to meet the recreation needs of an increasingly diverse population that have a variety of interests and abilities. Staff did thoroughly research each initiative. We consulted with user groups, community partners, recreation peers, experts across the province and Canada. We sought recommendations from advisory councils, service providers, governing bodies, and we gained support from potential funding partners. It is important to note that these 5 initiatives will not solve all the recreation needs and wants, nor will they address any of the operational or capital investment considerations for existing programs and assets. With the exception of one initiative, these are all completely brand new. The proposed 5 new initiatives are a starting point for enhanced recreation. Staff have thoroughly researched each initiative, and we consulted with various stakeholders to arrive at the most achievable, impactful, and beneficial to the community. Within your packets, there are detailed charters for each initiative that did identify the objectives, outcomes, measurements, estimated budget, and estimated timeline. So tonight, I will just kind of do a brief overview of them. Staff do estimate that a total investment from the city would be around $250,000. That includes $186,000 in capital funds and $63,000 in operational funds. Before we jump into the 5, we just wanted to make note that staff did identify 10 criteria to kind of give guidance in selecting the 5, and I'll briefly go through those. Again, as I mentioned, the initiative is achievable in part or fully for 2023. The initiative aligns with council priorities of the city's 10-year strategic plan and Play SJ. It's a major project or development that is known to city staff or it addresses current service gaps. The initiative delivers long-term sustainable recreation opportunities. The initiative enables partnerships with organizations and support a community-based recreation model. And I can say that when we generated these 5, we've had amazing support from our community partners so far. The initiative minimizes annual operating costs. That was something that staff were cautious of. The initiative maximizes the use of existing municipal assets and resources. The initiatives support the use of natural environment with minimal environmental impacts. And the initiative considers growth possibilities for growth expansion, multi-purpose, and multi-seasonal use. And combined, all the initiatives deliver a cross-section of recreational offerings that consider accessibility, inclusion, and the needs of the various populations. So first, all right, community block party trailer. Doesn't that sound exciting? Community block party trailer. So it's the same premise as our really successful Green Machine. It would be a 14-foot trailer, and you would have everything inside of it that you would need to host a community event. So you have table, chairs, barbecue, sound system, generator, sort of reusable active games. It would be booked the same way as a Green Machine, online, or you could call. We'd work together and schedule the pickup and drop off with parts. And this is also exciting because we could use it for our own events as well. Say it's night market or the Sunshine Program. This has the potential to be used all year round. And we did consult with our community partners, and they're all extremely excited about the possibility of this moving forward. So we do hope that the community block party trailer will increase participation and awareness in community-based recreation offerings, reduce equipment rental costs, and improve efficiency to host events, and foster community pride. The next one is a development of a cricket field. This is something that's been on the radar of staff for a few years now in trying to figure out the need of the local cricket community. Some of you may not know, but Qriket has been in St. John since September 15th, 1988. I didn't know that, but yeah, it's been here a while. And it's grown substantially. So St. John has its own Qriket association, which is affiliated with the provincial body, Qriket New Brunswick, and they are also affiliated with Qriket Canada. The local group has over 100 members, both men and women, and they've played over 150 games this season. Province-wise, there's 400 members to Qriket New Brunswick. Right now, there's 3 fields in the province. There's 1 in Moncton and 2 in Fredericton. Currently, St. John Qriket, they play at the exhibition grounds, and field availability is really limited because it's based on the horse racing schedule, and also they have issues with flooding at the field. So having a designated field in order to increase their sport is vital. Qriket is the second most popular sport in the world next to soccer. So with more newcomers settling in St. John, the demand to play Qriket is high. The city did commission the Glen Group to do a feasibility study, and they have come up with parcels of land where we could develop the fields. And Qriket St. John has come on as a partner in terms of fundraising, but also in terms of handling some field maintenance. So we do hope that the Qriket field will increase and enhance recreation opportunities, support sport tourism, and support growth and retention, population growth and retention. Next is a all-terrain off-road wheelchair. This would be stationed at Rockwood Park. We have over 55 kilometers of amazing trail at our regional park, and providing accessibility to participants ensures that no one is excluded from enjoying the regional park. This chair is designed to go on gravel, sand, off-road, and kind of has 3 multi-uses. It's actually electric, so the user can go ahead and use it and propel themselves independently. If they would like to get, some physical activity, there's levers on it and they can push it forward and still be independent while on the trail. If that's not an option or preferred, there is an accessibility rack that can go on the back, and an attendant or a loved one or family or friend can help push the wheelchair through the trails. This would be booked online or called ahead. It'd be at the Interpretation Center. We'd like to develop trail maps for kind of the best trails that this chair could go on. We did consult with St. John Ability Advisory, Ability MB, and the Active Living Alliance, and we threw around certain ideas, and we landed on this chair. It would be for 2 chairs. So we hope that the all-terrain off-road wheelchair will increase recreation opportunities for those with disabilities and foster an inclusive community with civic pride. Next is disc golf. This is also something that's been on staff's radar for a few years. Disc golf is extremely popular in the region. Disc golf is played a lot like regular golf, except you don't use a ball, you use a frisbee. And instead of a hole, there's actually metal baskets. And what's cool about this sport is they use the terrain that's there. So if you have elevation or valleys, it's perfect for the sport. So again, I mentioned they have a strong following. They do have a Maritime Disc Golf Association. This past season, they hosted over 50 events in all 4 provinces. MB is home to 13 leagues, 17 courses that range from 9 to 18 holes. The closest completed courses to St. John are Sussex and Oromocto. And just to give a scope of usage, the top 3 courses in New Brunswick saw over 13,000 rounds played. So we would propose that this would go at Shamrock Park. You see in your packet, the design's kind of been done by the group, and it uses the entire asset in what would have been the mountain biking trails. It's for all ages. It's passive. You would just walk on and play, and this can actually be played all year round and in the winter. So disc golf would increase and enhance recreation opportunities and support sport tourism. And then we have Passport to Parks, as some of you may be familiar with. It was around a few years ago, and staff would like to bring it back, but in an enhanced way. Usually this would take place once school closes, and the last one would wrap up before school goes in. We do focus on our city assets, like our beaches, our parks, our playgrounds. What we'd like to do this time around is have 4 in the summer, but now move into winter and have 2 events in the winter. To showcase our public parks and stuff in the winter. We do things like barbecue, active games, entertainment. We animate the space. But what we'd like to do is kind of bring the programming up and make sure that we include activities for seniors, for those with disabilities, some cultural components. We would also like to see some adult-oriented activities within the evenings, and also kind of showcase some additional city assets. And that concludes my presentation. I can take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jen. Questions? Councillor Ogden?
And Lori, I'd like to thank you very much for your tremendous work and your enthusiasm. Recreation is so important. It should be much, much bigger in St. John. It attracts new people. It's good for physical and mental health, good for learning. And these are just great, great ideas. And I encourage you to do even more and come looking for more. Because when we make St. John grow, part of it's going to be because of recreation and your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, great. Just want to echo that. I'm really excited about some of these new rec opportunities. Accessibility piece is really, really key. The disc golf one, obviously, is something that's been talked about for a number of years. I'm curious because I know PEI has hosted a national tournament in the past 3 years, and it brings a lot of people for disc golf over there. It sounds like we're going to, just like any golf course, you have these pretty wide tiers of what you achieve in style of course, difficulty of course, and how attractive it is for people to go and visit. So with this course, am I right in understanding that we're going to look for more of that basic tier level, more introductory course for disc golf? Would it be more of an intermediate, or is that design still being ironed out?
For sure. Through the deputy to the councillor, that would still be ironed out. Right now, we're working with the group in terms of scoping the space, and they feel like we have enough space to have a solid 16 holes. They'll know more once we get down and on site to determine kind of the skill level of the holes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I look at this one, I think it's a really unique opportunity to put something together that could attract a lot of people, where there's places nearby that seem to be hosting it every year and there's no one competing with them to host those types of tournaments. So anyway, I'm really excited about that one, but all of them in particular. Thank you so much for all that work.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Radwan?
Thank you, Deputy. Yeah, this is quite exciting, and I kind of looked at it the same way as you, Councillor Harris, that there's huge tournament opportunities. I always hear of our cricket team traveling to Fredericton, traveling to Moncton, and they have quite large communities there too. So I think as there's more venues available, we'll probably see more people. I was quite excited to see the block party trailer because it will be able to move everywhere, and the green machine is fabulous. I'm wondering, when it comes to the passports to parks, can you, Jen, speak to like where you usually have the events, like what you already talked about, what time of the year, but where are you having them?
Yes, so through the deputy to the councillor, we've had them at Dominion Park, Rockwood Park, Reservoir. I think this time around we'd get together as a team and we'd map it out for the entire season and make sure that we are hitting every section of the city to make sure that it's widespread, especially the winter ones as well. So we mainly go to like our larger city assets, but it would be exciting to say host. And again, like we're still going to brainstorm it and figure it out, but you could have a major event at Rockwood Park, but that doesn't mean that we also can't, partner with maybe like the local community centers or the local community groups to have events at the same time. So it may be something where it's, it's a certain section of the city, great, we're going to be at the Res, but we're also going to partner with Champlain Heights and do something. In the past, it's been isolated at kind of one area, but it doesn't mean that we can't look ahead and get everyone in kind of like that section of the community, or maybe the last one will be a big community-wide one. We're really looking to kind of focus and get the community engagement with that one, so.
That's great. I mean, I'm glad to kind of hear that, because there was a couple of these items that, as excited as I am for them, they're going to the North End. So it'd be really great to get some of those Passport Park events going on at the Res, so that the side residents are getting to enjoy that. I do have a meeting with a bunch of our association leaders tomorrow night, so I'll be sure to mention about the new trailer. I'm sure they'll be excited to hear about that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Norton?
Actually, so I know that middle school soccer has to kick them off before they go out there. So it's a great problem to have in our community, and Fields in the North End, right in Prince Elizabeth School. So you can watch the guys playing cricket there every evening. So with a large Syrian population in that area. It's just another example of the growing diversity within our community. So looking for them to play west, maybe Queen Square would be a great place over there. So with that, like when we look at these 5 initiatives, this is great. Like it touches on inclusiveness as it relates to accessibility at Rockwood Park with some of the all-terrain wheelchairs that you have. It touches on the diversity that we have in our community and expanding the range of sport and activities that we have. You know, one thing that, this is just a conversation that happened on the weekend. Like when you drive by Seaside Park, there's a dilapidated basketball court there. I mean, it's an eyesore. It's an absolute incredible eyesore. The concrete is, and this isn't to take away from the good work you've done, but it's to open up a further conversation as it relates to, as we invest in, Councillor Radwan mentions it every once in a while. She'll say, I don't want to build new buildings until we're looking after our current ones. And that's not to say I don't want to do these things. I'm in 2 hands up for what you've done here. But when we look at these things, and yet we go by a basketball court or we go by tennis courts, and we go by some of those bread and butter, some of those staple assets that we have. And I can think in my ward, I can think of a few basketball courts, a number of tennis courts. Like, how do we balance this reinvestment and put these nice shiny things on when somebody else says, look, I think that's great, but you've got to mow the tennis courts that are in my backyard, like literally mow them. And I know because the emails, I've sent the emails off, whether it's to Tim or whether it's to somebody else in your department, like it's a concern I have that sometimes we let those things go by the wayside, but they're still there, and they're still things that we need to take care of, but they haven't seen the love and attention that we have, and these things are coming online. Like, can you help me with that? What do you say to somebody for that? I'm just Joe Blow citizen.
Acting City Manager, do you want to?
Yes, Deputy, through you to Councillor Norton. I think it's an excellent question. I understand the concern. This, for clarity, this initiative is really stemming from direction given by council, and that's been embedded in the work plan to establish new initiatives around recreation. So it's not to say that there's not work to be done around assets, and that's certainly a conversation that will happen as the budget process moves forward for 2023, and certainly you have before you for receive and file tonight the capital budget, and that will start to address some of those considerations along with the fullness of the time as the operating budget comes forward for 2023. So it's not meant to take away those basic requirements, and that would be a service level discussion when that comes forward. But this is really reporting back on council's directive to establish new initiatives around recreation programming as opposed to those basic level
Acting City Manager, I think that I appreciate that response. I don't need to debate the issue, and I don't necessarily need to have the final word on this, but like when we're talking about new initiatives, there's only one old taxpayer. And it's the taxpayer that's paying the bills, and at the end of the day, we're looking to put new things in, but we're coming from the same old pocketbook that hasn't been able to take care of those things. Like I could do a pretty quick photo essay of just basketball courts and tennis courts and other recreation amenities just within Ward 1 that would be equivalent to some of the proposed housing projects that have never seen the light of day. So we need to, I think at some point, council, if it's a council directive, then it's a council responsibility. But I would say at the same time, I would encourage staff to speak up and say, hey, council, we're not looking after these adequately. And so when I go through Rossay and I see how polished their basketball courts are, or their pole standards, or the fact that they actually have tennis nets, and there's not grass growing in the middle of their courts, that's a conversation worth having.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to let Governor chime in here. Council. Go ahead, Fred.
Is that directed to me, Your Worship? Yes. Yeah, I would just offer, through you to Councillor Norton, point is noted, and as part of the asset management program, we've been looking at our data as it relates to all of the assets in the city, and we've identified that there is a gap relating to recreational assets in the city, and that's something that we have included in the 2023 capital program to look at to improve our data such that we can actually build in the recreational component into our asset management program.
Right, it's a very good point. Councillor Ogden.
And just for the public to know, I was chair of recreation for 10 years, maybe 15, I can't remember, but we seem to have more money than to spend on recreation in St. John. And there's a lot of us, I admire Jen and Lori bringing these programs or activities up, and I also take respect what Councillor Norton's saying about our structure. But people in St. John have to know that for 56 years, the province of New Brunswick has taken a large chunk of our change, and we can sit and discuss a few pennies inside here what we're going to do with them and keep getting probably similar answers. But I think the public need to know that St. John is not getting its fair share of provincial taxes. There is enough money generated in this city for us to have great recreation and expanded recreation. And with the level of poverty we have, which is, I went to the Boys and Girls Club the other night and they said it's 1 out of 3, and then I hear that the taxes that we're sending, Mr. Hickey started it off with the tax assessments, those things are all related. Our poverty, our lack of money for recreation, the amount of money we give to the province of New Brunswick, and the little bit we get back. And that's happened for 56 years. So I want people to understand that we are fighting the good fight here at City Council and with our staff. And that the City of St. John is not saying we need to generate tons more money. We generate lots of money. It's not staying in St. John. It's going to other places. It's gone on for 56 years. All the stats show that. So I'd like to say to the public, get on side with us, help us lobby the province and say we want nice recreation. We don't want low poverty rates. This is all associated with that. And the tax assessments and that. This is all related. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just conscious we have to stay on topic here with these 5 initiatives. And I would just encourage us all just to kind of think about, the fact we're talking about replacement costs and other things which have to do with a different budget item. We have to be strategic here. This council came in and decided that recreation and quality of life was going to be a priority, and it wasn't a priority before this council in the same way for all sorts of reasons. So I think we're turning the corner. I don't think one is at the cost of another. I don't think because we're going to go ahead and do these 5 tremendous new initiatives, and I hope more to come, it's going to mean that we're going to just continue to ignore these assets that went ignored, because at the end of the day, the city has a per capita replacement cost of our general fund assets of $25,000 a person, which is second only to Calgary in this country. We're a city of 70,000 people. So we're already behind the 8 ball on some of that replacement stuff, but we are turning the corner. And I think, we're seeing assessment growth, we're seeing new construction growth. So we want to turn our focus on that quality of life initiative. And I, for one, am just really happy to see a really good stab at new quality of life initiatives that are going to draw different types of people here and keep people who are more interested in staying here. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sullivan, do you want to wrap us up on this?
Happy to, Your Worship. I just want to comment on the mix of projects you got. These are so smart. I look at everything through the lens of attraction and retention of population. You know, it's all about growth. As much as I like making money and paying for things, if we don't have growth, we can't have money to pay for things. We have gotten stuck in the conversation for so many years about established sports and established facilities that we have had that we haven't looked until I saw this list. I knew we had cricket in St. John, but thinking, hey, we should actually have a cricket field. I've known about Frisbee golf for a long time, but to think, you know, we should actually make something for Frisbee golf. So I just think it's smart. I think those selections are very smart to attract people, to give more recreation, reasons for people to stay who have come to St. John and then kind of looked around and said, what's here? I think they're really smart. Passport to parks, can't wait to see that come back. Animation at our beaches and our parks, and proactively showing off what we've got. And I always believe in building on strengths. And you hit the nail right on the head. The green machine has been a strength for neighborhoods who want to clean up. How do we leverage the goodwill we have in St. John to help clean up neighborhoods? We can never afford to do it all, but we can afford to have a trailer to help people out who want to help out. Well, we have all sorts of neighborhoods in St. John who love celebrating stuff. To have another trailer to help them celebrate and enjoy being a community and neighborhood in St. John. And really, on the money side, it's all smartly done. Yeah, we got to spend a little more money, but these are 5 really good projects that spend a little more money because they're smart in how they're thought out. They have partners. They already have people who are chomping at the bit to help out. Just thanks so much. I'm so looking forward to these rolling out next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, and I'll just say, Jen Laurie, these are really out-of-the-box ideas. I mean, some of them are natural, you know, but I mean, really put a lot of thought and effort into it, and consultation. That's how we get things done. And I can't wait to see the first neighborhood that has the green machine sitting next to the block party machine after the cleanup, because I see that coming down the road. So I thank you very much for the presentation, and I'll take a motion for the recommendations, please. Okay, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Stewart, on the question then. All those in favor? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next is 12.3 on your agenda. It's the City of St. John Climate Change Action Plan Progress Report.
Okay, and I guess we're passing this over to, oh, okay, Brent?
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. As we all know, climate change poses a significant threat, the impacts of which continue to become more apparent. We've experienced unpredictable weather, and the impacts of which are being felt by many here in Atlantic Canada and by many in Florida and other parts of the world. St. John has been leading as it relates to climate change and climate adaptation and mitigation. And this evening, we'd like to provide you with an update of the actions the city has taken and some of the actions we plan to take in the coming years, with a focus on providing an update on both our corporate and community greenhouse gas and energy action plan objectives. Also, as it relates to our climate adaptation for the city and our preparedness for climate change, and asset management program in general and how it supports those efforts. And with that, Mr. Samir Yamin, our Manager of Asset and Energy Management with the city, will provide an overview of the report that's in your council packet. Over to you, Mr. Yamin.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern, Deputy Mayor, Member of Council. As always, I'm very happy, excited to be here to present to you progress on our climate change action plan. There's a lot of information to cover. However, the presentation, I'm not going to go into detail of some of the initiative. For more information, please refer to the report on that here. Okay, as you know, the climate change action plan consists of 3 strategies. Climate change mitigation strategy, which includes the corporate and the community. Then you have climate change adaptation, and then you have your asset management strategy. All these strategies, they need to work together in integral part to meet this following objective: to ensure that our city infrastructure our community are resilient to climate change event. Secondly, to ensure that we are providing optimal level of service at the lowest life cycle cost. Thirdly, we need to transition to decarbonization. And lastly, we need to continue secure external funding for our infrastructure renewal. First, we're going to start with the corporate greenhouse gas and energy action plan objective. As you know, your council has already adopted the greenhouse gases to reduce by 30% by 2025 and to be carbon neutral by 2040. Since 2017, city staff has really been working diligently and hard to implement various energy measures. I don't want to count how many, on municipal building, water facility, as well on the transit and municipal fleet. As well, we have developed a public transit and fleet strategy to help us to transition to low carbon economy. So far, since 2017, we were able to reduce our annual saving by $940,000, and we have secured over $7 million in grant toward energy efficiency or other green initiatives in our building. And additionally, we expect to receive approximately 30,000 megawatt an hour in form of renewable energy certificate from the Birch Hill project by 2023, which is going to go to our corporate greenhouse gas emission. So what happened now? As a result of this energy saving measure we did on our fleet and so on and various one, where we are projecting to reduce our greenhouse gases by 2020 by 28%. So we are on a target to meet our by 30% by 2025. Additionally, with the Birch Hill wind power going to be online, hopefully by 2023 and 2023, we're hoping to reduce further our greenhouse gases by 60% compared to 2015 level. So what is our next for the next 5 years? I don't want to go into detail here. We're going to continue implementing measures on our building, and also we're going to start. We are in the process of implementing phase 1 of the public transit and fleet carbon migration strategy. We're going to continue. We're looking at implementing Energy Star labeling on our building, and continue recommissioning whatever we need to do here, and securing funding toward this green initiative. Next, we're going to talk about the community greenhouse gas and energy action plan strategy. This is very challenging for us. As you know, the city does not have control over how can we impose bylaw and so on here. However, as you know, council has already adopted greenhouse energy target of 9% by 2025 and to be 18% by 2030, below the 2015 level. The city of Saint John, we're going to continue playing a role with working with various stakeholder, energy provider, in order for us to move our community community to net zero by 2050 here. So this is very important for us. So far, what we did since 2018, Council has already approved the community greenhouse action plans in 2019. Secondly, Council adopted a green zoning bylaw to encourage the development of large renewable energy projects such as solar, wind, and so on here. We're working diligently with Saint John Energy to achieve the successful completion for the wind project, which is supposed to reduce greenhouse gases by 43%, 43,000 tons of CO2, which is the equivalent of 15% of the total community electrical consumption. And then also we are working with Saint John Energy. We already completed over 20 EV charge stations across Saint John. As a result of this initiative, we were able, as of 2023 also, we were able to reduce our community greenhouse gases by 7% compared to 2015 level. What are the next 5 years we're trying to do here? Is we are looking at developing a pathway for us, a roadmap here, working with the various stakeholder community to ensure how can we get our net zero by 2050. What are the bylaw, what are the costs, what's the implication on us, and so on. We're looking to see if there is, doing some study to see what is the feasibility study of developing a district energy system, establishing a government structure and community structure to manage the implementation of all this initiative. And we're going to continue working with Saint John Energy on developing a home energy retrofit to the residents of St. John. Second strategy is our climate change adaptation strategies goal. The main objective of this strategy is to ensure that the community and infrastructure are resilient to climate change events. So since 2018, there was a lot of initiative going on the climate change adaptation part of it. Council has adopted in 2020 the climate change adaptation plan. We developed a standardized methodology to help us identify what infrastructure at a high risk of climate change. And we secured over $50 million from various levels of government and other agencies toward this initiative. And for example, we received $11 million from the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund toward the following project: refurbishment of the seawall, raising and upgrading of 10 lift stations, as well as the relocating of the St. John Energy Union Street electric substation. For the next 5 years, we're gonna try to include our natural infrastructure asset. We're gonna integrate it as part of climate change adaptation plan. We are working on 2 future projects. Pending DMAP funding is the Courtney Bay Causeway raising and City of St. John wastewater flood protection project. We're looking at planting over 1,000 trees in the urban area. And very important for us is to incorporate the climate change adaptation plan into the next iteration of the municipal plan. And to continue working with energy provider and St. John Energy on the various energy projects. Lastly is our asset management strategy. The asset management strategy is very simple. Get to the point here. We need to provide an optimal level of service at the lowest life cycle cost through the management of the current and future asset in an effective, efficient, and sustainable manner. How are we gonna do that? Since 2018, we have developed significant work on asset management. We have developed and implement strategy, roadmap, policy, report. We have conducted various condition assessment on linear asset or our vertical asset. We map 95% of our asset into the GIS. So there was a lot of work done on this here. And the reason we have done is we need to understand the financial need and the practices we needed to be able to maintain our infrastructure and to provide whatever level service we need to do. So data is crucial for us to make a decision using evident database decision. So for the next 5 years, one comment I see Mr. McGovern indicated here is we need to continue update and improve our data. One area we're lacking on it is our parks and recreation, and we're planning to do a various condition assessment of our park to understand where is our high risk and how can we start implementing and updating our risk to provide whatever level 7 we need to do here. We're looking at implementing an asset management system to make sure to centralize our data and to make it easy for our manager to easily access the data and help him to make a decision very fast. The second one is very important for us. This is crucial for us, is we need to define and develop what is the level service we want to give it to the customer, what is our technical level service, and what are the key performance indicators to see how we perform in our infrastructure. And there's other we have to continue doing condition assessment on the various stuff in order for us to improve our inventory. And with this, I completed my presentation. I want to hand it over to you, Deputy Mayor, for any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of questions for you, Samir. Councillor Harris?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Samir, always love your presentations. We have to be top performers in reductions, I would assume. Do we know what the reductions are of the other cities in Atlantic Canada? Or do the other cities in Atlantic Canada that we know, I mean, maybe that's a question I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just wondering, do we know where we would score on that? Because I don't know if even all those cities have baseline studies for their greenhouse gas emissions from 2015. I'm just not sure.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Harris here is the city of St. John, I will say, we are the first in Atlantic Canada and one of the few across Canada who start establishing target and development program. I will say that myself. However, in the last 4 or 5 years, we start seeing a shift from cross Canada, Atlantic Canada, to start people establishing target, doing a pathway, doing a roadmap, how to get there here. So the last 3, 4 or 5 years, we start seeing a shift on that here. I do not have an idea. I have some idea. I mean, we are all moving in the same target. I don't have any comparison between municipality and so on that.
Yeah, and that's fine if we don't have the exact, I mean, it just, from what I hear of other councils especially, those aren't numbers, these are not numbers that I'm seeing in reduction, not just targets, but like targets hit and exceeded. One question that comes to me is, what are we, I see that there's plans for a future initiative for St. John Energy to work with St. John Energy on a retrofit program. Is there any other incentives that we're looking to roll out strategically to help drive the community change we need to? Because I trust that the city is in good hands with you. I know we need to send you some backup. I would love to see a full-time person that can really quarterback just the climate change action file and chase the buckets of money that keep coming. But do we have any sense of what we need at the community level to incentivize some of the culture change and to support organizations, social enterprises that are helping us reduce our community greenhouse gas emissions?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, Council, that's a very important question. I struggle with it many times. So what we happen to do next year, or we already start doing here, is we need to have the community buy-in into this here. So we are, as part of our community pathway to 2050, we are planning to do a lot of stakeholder engagement with the various energy provider, commercial properties, residential, non-government, to understand the need, what the action we need to do in order for us to be realistic and hit the target. You know, how can we change culture? What bylaw we need? What policy we need? What costs we need? Stuff like that. So I'm hoping through this community pathway to net zero, we can be hitting some of the item and we can come back to council with concrete action.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Radwan.
Thank you, Deputy. I had to speak about this, Director. I mean, I got to tell you, it's so exciting because you're talking about these levels of service that we need to figure out exactly what level of service do we have to be at, what KPIs are we going to have, and that's how we're going to know that, you know, are we overachieving over here, are we underachieving over there, and then what are we doing to help mitigate that so that we're always overachieving. And I just wanted to mention that I just found it so humbling how you throw these numbers in that, you know, we secured $52 million for infrastructure resilience, and we had secured $7 million for corporate GHG and energy action plan. You absolutely secured all of this money. Thank you very much for your hard work. It's unbelievable. I'm always happy to see you come to the podium, and it's often with money. And this sort of planning is definitely tied into saving money, generating more money, and saving energy and helping our environment. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. So, Mayor, I guess the only question is, what do you do with the rest of your day? I cannot believe the number of initiatives that you've taken on and the success that we've had. And you've put St. John ahead of the pack in terms of, you know, trying to make our environment a better place to live. So can't thank you enough for that. Thanks very much for coming in. Next item, Common Clerk. Oh, wait, I need a motion to receive and file. Okay, Councilor Sullivan and Councilor Hickey on the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, now next item, Common Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy. Next item on the agenda is 13.3, and this is from the Public Safety Committee, submission entitled Mental Health and Reversing Falls Bridge.
Okay, over to you, Chief Clifford.
No, I'll take it.
Oh, Councillor Hickey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thanks very much, Deputy. This was certainly a particular poignant presentation that we had had at Public Safety. Just for that, I'd just like to say that this was part of the most recent meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners. The police chief provided a report on the number of mental health related calls for service that the police force is responding to in the area of reversing falls. The police chief concluded that report by asking the Board of Police Commissioners to advance the following motions through the Public Safety Committee to Common Council as a means to prevent and improve response to mental health related calls. Those requests, as outlined in the kit, include both a request for a feasibility study on security cameras at the bridge, as well as improved infrastructure, a request to the province for improved infrastructure around the bridge to further protect people as much as possible in there. And I know I have alluded to this as well when we had Greg Zed presenting to us at the last meeting. So I'll leave it at that unless there's any questions from members of council.
Okay, do we have any questions for Councillor Hickey? No? Okay, can I get a motion to receive file? Okay, Councillor Hickey and Councillor Radwan. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any? Motion is carried.
What is that?
Oh, wait a second now.
There's a written recommendation in the report that the Public Safety Committee proposes the following recommendations to council. Ask the city manager to investigate feasibility of installing surveillance camera at and around Reversing Falls Bridge as a means to deter and assist in those instances of mental health actions and response. And there's a further one as well.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one. Okay, so we have a mover. Councillor Hickey and Councillor Radwan still. Okay, on the question then? What? Okay, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy. For council, for those who are watching at home, for anybody who happens to have the ear of the province folks who make infrastructure decisions, in 2017, the Community Suicide Prevention Committee in St. John asked the province about putting barriers up at Reversing Falls, 2017. In 2019, the St. John Council of the day passed a motion asking the province to look at the same. I really want to thank the Public Safety Committee and the Board of Police Commissioners for bringing more data forward in 2021 to do the same. It is sad that this was identified by the St. John Suicide Prevention Committee in 2017, and the data is still showing that we still need it. This is so, so, so important. All the data, all the research, this is a science-based thing. I guess I'm not preaching to council, I'm preaching to anybody out there who has the ear of somebody who makes the decisions, says that these things work. Please, please, please help the folks of the city of St. John. They need help with mental health and that support too. This is not a gamble. This is something that will reduce people harming themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. So true. Councillor Hickey, did you have your line up?
Nothing more than to conclude my Public Safety Committee reports and saying thanks to the staff led by Chief Clifford in this effort.
Okay. So on the question, then on the recommendation, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any, and the motion's carried. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Hickey, for your reports. Next item, Common Clerk.
Next on the agenda is item 13.4. It's a growth committee submission with respect to Affordable Housing Action Plan.
Okay, Councillor Killen.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Growth Committee has been receiving updates on the progress of the Affordable Housing Action Plan now for over a year. From the initial needs assessment to the extensive stakeholder and public engagement process, the housing challenges are abundantly clear. We cannot attract employers and grow our population unless people can afford to live here. I'm happy St. John is prepared to take action. Common Council's vision was to facilitate a mix of affordable housing in all of our neighborhoods as part of its priorities. And last week, Growth Committee heard from staff who developed the plan along with the community consultants and a tremendous group of volunteers supporting the Affordable Housing Action Team. The plan before you today is one that will enhance St. John as a vibrant, inclusive, and thriving community with a diverse range of safe and affordable housing. This plan has left no rock unturned, and there are many actions within the plan requiring ongoing coordination. I want to thank the action team, staff, consultants for their hard work on this important initiative. And I want to introduce Andy Reid, who has been the project lead on this, has been delving in with folks day in and day out on this action plan, who is going to give us a few more words on the entirety of it. Andy?
Thank you, Chair and Councillor. Deputy Mayor and members of Council, I'm very excited to be here tonight to present the final St. John Affordable Housing Action Plan. I do promise that this presentation will be brief, it will be high level, but there is an abundance of information in your package as well as online, information that was presented to the Growth Committee, and that can be found on the Shape Your City website if you're curious of the process we followed to get here tonight. So the Affordable Housing Action Plan, what is it? It's a comprehensive plan, and comprehensive meaning it pursues multiple strategies within the 39 actions proposed in the plan, and it's also targeted. So it's targeting the housing gaps that have been identified in St. John. What does it do? Simply put, it provides a coordinated approach on this very important issue. It's necessary because here, like elsewhere, housing has become one of the foremost issues in our community. The plan will be a blueprint for the city to take a more active role in ensuring an adequate supply of affordable housing in our neighborhoods into the future. How the plan was developed. So over the past year, the plan was developed in consultation with our housing action team. This is a cross-sectoral group of individuals, nonprofit, the province, CMHC, city staff. And as we set out on this journey, it was clear we wanted to make informed decisions. So part one of this process involved housing needs assessment. And you see in the screen what that involved. Part two was taking the information from that assessment, combining it with a very comprehensive stakeholder engagement program, and then developing the plan itself. Both the needs assessment and plan have been prepared by some of Canada's leading housing experts, SHS and REFAC Consulting, with the assistance of the action team and stakeholders every step of the way. The needs assessment focused on the middle part of the housing continuum. This is a term that CMHC uses, and the middle part's illustrated here in the blue buckets. A few key takeaways from the assessment to highlight. It's remarkable in St. John just how much of a polarization we find in the incomes between renters and homeowners. Housing costs, like here and nearly everywhere, are rising faster than incomes, and housing options no longer align with affordability, especially in these gaps we find. So the needs assessment highlights these four gaps. Over the year-long study process, like any plan, stakeholder engagement was paramount. In this case, it was used to gain a fuller understanding of local trends and information found during the needs assessment. You can find more information on the stakeholder engagement in the plan. There's some figures here on the screen. So to put the plan into full view, it's important to realize the housing policy framework. Housing is complex with many different players operating. Within the context of an evolving housing system, the city has chosen to pursue a more supportive role of housing. There are many community partners also advancing efforts. The bottom line is that additional action is needed to address housing challenges. The plan sets out a strategic vision The vision is that we want to live in a community that is vibrant, inclusive, and thriving. We want to live in a community with a range of housing options that are safe and affordable. As well, to capture the St. John community's aspirations, key principles were drafted, which include a rights-based approach to housing. So this means that housing is non-discriminatory. The system seeks to provide for those in greatest need. Other principles include public investment for public benefit and advancing community solutions to community challenges. So a lot of these principles resonate with what we heard during the stakeholder engagement. The plan contains a comprehensive list of actions. There's 39 of them. And I won't go through them one by one, but I'll linger here on the slide for a minute. These actions, they logically divide into 6 areas. So in the first area, it's about system awareness and coordination. We need to improve our awareness of the housing system and improve our coordination of what's being done. This is a very important area that would include actions such as creating a housing facilitator function, an advisory committee, setting up a monitoring framework, and a public engagement campaign. Next, in areas 2 to 4, we need to support investing in non-market housing solutions, preserve and improve existing stock, and expand the range of housing options. In terms of non-market solutions, we heard very strongly from people about the need for immediate action, and this plan will get up and off the ground with an initial $800,000 grant for affordable housing, for non-market affordable housing projects. Next, in area 5, we want to cultivate a more responsive system. So specifically, this means looking at how to encourage greater accessibility standards, looking at our own city policies and bylaws such as zoning, land disposition, and incorporating affordable housing and housing supply in a greater way into our neighborhood planning and municipal planning program. In the last area, there are several actions with regards to leveraging partnerships in the community. We recognize how much great work has already been underway and look for opportunities to leverage this work. Looking ahead at putting the plan into action, really we're at the adoption stage of the plan now, but this plan really represents a beginning. We've seen a great deal of energy and interest from the community on this issue, and we're at a critical point. This plan will set us on a 5-year journey with multiple strategies for addressing a truly challenging problem. We have targets and a monitoring framework to measure its success, and the people involved will be critical to this success. In terms of the short-term steps, getting the facilitator, the function role up and running will be critical to coordinating efforts within the broader community, including the Housing Advisory Committee and other governance models. We do believe a solid plan has been put together, and from all of our conversations, everyone is eager to get started. Before moving on to questions, I would just like to give a round of thank yous. It's always an amazing process to engage with people, and on this particular issue, there's just so much energy. It's been even more amazing. So first, I would like to thank our consultants, Ken Folds and Ed Starr, who are here tonight and served as guides through this process. I would also like to thank every person involved in this initiative, from Growth Committee, staff and Director Roulette, to our lengthy list of stakeholders, in particular BCAPI, the University, Envision St. John, and the general public for really taking the time to offer their feedback. And most of all, really our action team, who are tremendously busy, and we give them great thanks for volunteering their valuable time and energy to this initiative. So with that, we can take questions, and perhaps if the team can be brought up, if there are detailed questions, they are at hand for those as well.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we do have a couple, Andy. Councillor Hickey, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thanks very much, Your Worship. And thanks to Andy and the team, certainly led by Councillor Killen on the Growth Committee, as well as to the rest of staff for their work on this. I think it's both an incredibly important document and also an incredibly timely document. We're seeing the crunch, as has been identified in our needs assessment, particularly in 4 places, but what I think is particularly unique for us is its cross-sectionality in the housing spectrum that we're seeing the crunch. We're not just seeing it on the lower end, which we have historically, we're seeing it throughout. And I think that's pushing people further down the housing spectrum and further down in terms of measurable housing security. And I don't think that's a good thing. And I'm proud of this plan for taking that action, making the city accountable in a new way for affordable housing, which I think is becoming the burden of more cities to have to do and take action on it. I guess my question, as we stage this for the next 5 years, Andy, there's a lot of bold ideas in here, and there's a lot of big change. St. Andrews has a price tag of $2 million on theirs. We're at $800,000. That, to me, based on current developer costs, builds 4 units. Is it enough? Like, how do you, I guess I just question how you're able to action this plan with $800,000.
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor, I can hazard an answer to that. It's simple that we realize the costs of construction have skyrocketed everywhere, and the $800,000 it was a bit of a windfall for us. We saw it as an opportunity, and we wanted to commit that to, as I say, have an immediate action to help, in particular with those involved in providing non-market housing, to get projects over the finish line. So we know we know full well the amount of resources required on this file. $800,000 is a grant policy we're developing, but
do you have any indication as to what that would look like? Like, would it be like a per door incentive or any indication? I mean, I understand full well that this is not an area of cost that we would normally delve into. It's an area of cost we've found ourselves having to respond to because of the market conditions that we've been left with and because of inaction elsewhere that we're having to deal with this. And I think it's our job to step up to it. I'm proud that we're stepping up to this number, but is there any indication as to what that would look like?
I think Director would like to step in here for a minute.
Thank you. I think this is a great question, and I'm really happy to provide some context to it. As a public administrator with the city, I've seen the city take on new roles, expanded roles. This is a new role for us. That was a starting point for Andy and many of us when we, and Councillor Killian among others, to say, you know, we're coming to this humbly, that we've not been supportive in the past. And to see this action plan come together in essentially very rough math, looks like to be an investment of at least $1 million in 2023 in combination of the $800,000 proposed budget as well as the expenditures considered for the facilitator among some of the projects is a massive leap for the city of St. John to take. Is it enough? It is a starting point for this very important initiative for the city, and I think we'll have to become creative as we go forward as this continues to be an issue for us. We will come forward with recommendations on that fund, the Affordable Housing Fund, and absolutely the key focus of that is immediate and impactful generation of affordable housing units in the city, and that will be a major priority. Council will have an opportunity to comment on that as well. But at least from my perspective, this is a massive shift for the city of St. John, for the St. John community, and it's one, at least for me and for those who have participated in the engagement, that I hope provides them hope for what's to come.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Radwan, you're next.
Thank you, Deputy. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. First of all, I'm just wondering exactly how all the data was collected.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I can take a stab at the councillor's question. If there's more details too, we do have our consultants here who did the work collecting data, but The data would be collected for the most part from the most up-to-date Stats Canada information, CMHC information, as well. Data was supplemented through stakeholder engagement, so a survey was done. There were about 333 responses to that, including 100 of them from, which were facilitated from neighborhood developers. So it was really a combination of quantitative methods, but also focus groups, or 6 focus groups, and or 6 town halls, I believe, and 6 focus groups. So it's a combination of.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, some of the census data is not matching up for me, so I don't know if I'm missing something, but, and I'm also kind of wondering how, with the interest rates going up, how this would affect this plan. If you've had any time to put any thought into it, because that's really recent.
Through the deputy mayor, I'll give a start to that, and I'll pass it along to our consultants. But it's certainly going to have an impact. I guess that's all I'll say myself.
Okay. I also just wanted to see if you had any sort of plans of like what we would do short-term versus long-term. So to get some immediate wins, would staff be looking at trying to incentivize, looking after buildings that are already built and then having plans for buildings for in the future? And of course, like Councillor Hickey said, it's only $800,000, so how far is it going to go?
Through the deputy mayor, so we do have targets set out. Those targets are for new construction. And as far as there are short, medium, and long-term actions identified. Keeping in mind, this is a 5-year plan. So any actions we're doing today are really going to take time to come to fruition. So we're really looking to better understand the system so we can act appropriately. And that first year really does involve setting up a committee. We did want to get the fund out the door right away, but there's a lot of coordination work as well. Working with our action team, we know the great work that's being done right now in the nonprofit sector, and we know there's more work to be done in coordinating with different levels of government, and also getting more information out there, more information to the private sector. We're planners, we work with them every day, but we know everyone has a part to play in this.
I'll come back around, Deputy, if I can.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you for the presentation and a fantastic report. I guess one piece I see is very important that was mentioned in the report is, we don't want to duplicate services that are already here. But one of the unfortunate pieces that we have in St. John is we have such a need that we have many nonprofits working on this issue because there is such a need. So having that coordinating position makes a ton of sense from a St. John perspective, so that we get the power of everybody together, and it's not on the corner of somebody's desk. It is somebody's desk. I think that is good investment and good money. I guess I would just suggest humbly is you come up with criteria for the $800,000 that we want to get out the door. Again, from my lens, if we can be investing and get the money out the door to get the buildings built as soon as possible, one, to meet the need, but also to meet the need, and once the buildings are up, so we can get some property tax out of it, because that property tax can help refill that $800,000. I think it's, this initial investment is paid for by the current residents of the city of St. John through their tax dollars. And I think if you ask people in St. John if we should be involved in this kind of business at our level to a certain extent, I think most would say yes. But I think, the one piece that worries me a little bit is the renewal of the $800,000. And my hope is, as we roll this plan out, as comprehensive as it is, as we're getting things built, the property tax from that extra building stock that we were building will fund that refill of the $800,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, through the deputy mayor. So I'll take the first part. You know, we have a highly successful incentives program, which kind of works on that model, and we're well aware with how that works. This fund, I believe it was first intended to be a one-time kind of fund, realizing that to adequately replenish it, more assistance is needed from other levels. So I don't know, Director Roulette, did you have anything to add to that comment?
We have a hand up by Ed Starks for one of our consultants.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment that the intent here is that the city would leverage and partner with other resources who can multiply that 800,000 by many times. We had CMHC on our committee who have a range of programs that are available to be able to achieve some of the targets that we're talking about. So getting the framework in place to be able to work together to make that happen is really the key starting point. And the question was a very good one about interest rates. If the framework is in place and you've got relationships with other levels of government, with the private sector, with other nonprofits, then there will be change in the market and you'll be able to be flexible and adaptive. Interest rates go up, interest rates go down, and so forth. The whole intent of this plan is to be very nimble, to be able to respond as the conditions change so that you'll come up with the best solutions. We've worked with other municipalities around the country, and that's some of the more successful ones have been able to do that. So that's our support for this plan to be able to help put together this framework and this role for the City of St. John, and then its relationships to leverage with other possible partners. So we do think that's a workable and tried and true solution, and it's one that should augur well for the city.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Sullivan, good?
I'm good, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just think it's important to note that a lot of the questions that are coming from some of my colleagues, and I get the sentiment because we're in a housing crisis, $800,000 isn't enough, and if we want to action this affordable housing action plan, you're going to need $5 to $6, $7 million a year to do it. But that's operations. We got to talk about the strategy to try to hit this out of the park. And this affordable housing action plan, we don't hit home runs if we don't line up our team, our pitchers. That coordinator is going to be pitching projects. They're going to be trying to target, those projects that are having difficulty but have really big opportunities associated with them. And I think we need to action this part now so we can start to see the bigger asks come later. And this council, just last council, unanimously approved the city manager to go and investigate a municipal housing entity. That's going to create the level of horsepower we need to really champion this, to get it in that direction in tandem with what that coordinator is doing. So I think we're just a little too far front of what we're trying to see done, which is, of course, we all want to see buildings built. But we've got to line the team up. We've got to make sure we have, enough horsepower in-house and some efforts outside and some plans to, really go after to get that done. So I'm fully supportive of the Affordable Housing Action Plan. It is a huge list of recommendations. At first, when I saw this, it was like, can we just pick 4 that we can do? But I see when you start to put the puzzle together and you start to see what other actors need to be involved with this isn't just for us. This is for housing alternatives. This is for the St. John Land Bank. This is for HDC. Everybody's going to look at this plan and get their marching orders. So whether or not we're throwing 800K at it, that's not the end of the game. Someone else is throwing 300,000. Somebody else is a full-time hire. So I think it's comprehensive. I really do. And I think it's going to, from what I see here, it's going to get us further than Moncton or Fredericton are going to be with theirs. And it's not about comparing ourselves to them, but we went to the 8 Cities Conference a few weeks ago, and I listened to their CEO, their CAO, and their mayors talk about what they're doing, and I don't see the same level of comprehensive action in what they're doing. They're taking action, but it isn't the same, and it's not the same level of depth. So that would just be my 2 cents. So I'm happy to second the motion if we haven't already moved it, or if we need to move it. But
Okay, I'm just going to let Councillor Radwan wrap us up here, and, because that's the second round now, right? And then you're going to introduce the motion, and you're going to second the motion. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Radwan.
Thank you, Deputy. So just a couple of comments that I had. First of all, Councillor Killen, I wanted to mention a growth committee. I'd love to see you guys in open session having like a biannual updates on housing targets and a little bit of focus on affordability of those housing options that are coming up as they come up, so that we can kind of watch and see like how close are we getting. And the reason why I say to have it in your open session is you're communicating it out to the public. This is what we've done. This is what we still need. So I think that would be a great first step for just sitting at the growth committee. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that, you know, there's all kinds of conversation about how, you know, what are the core responsibilities of the city of St. John. And when we think about housing, the things that land right in our lap is planning and zoning. And those things, we definitely need to grab a whole bull by the horn and tackle it to make sure that there's no barriers there that shouldn't be. The one thing that I will say is that if the province is not going to send us more than $800,000, I'm happy to pull the plug on this at any time, and I would encourage all of council to do that. Our pocket of money that we have of $167-ish million is geared towards those municipal responsibilities that we already have. And as we have the tax base growth go into these new buildings, come out of these new buildings that would come up, I would argue that that money probably also needs to be spent on any of these growing pains that we're going to have, having to redo any sort of infrastructure and all of those sorts of things. So I absolutely want to support this 100%, but we do need the money to come from the province, as this has for a very long time been their responsibility. And, you know, I think that we're all on board to take it on, but we need the funding support and we need it to be continued. I don't know how CFO Fudge would be able to pull, you know, $5 to $7 million out of the budget to put towards housing, because we're trying to keep our service levels as they are or improve them. So with that said, I'm happy. I think if there's a $777 million surplus sitting there, I hope to be able to see a good $15 million come for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. All right, Councillor Killen, over to you.
Definitely appreciate everyone's comments. You know, we're really excited with this one because it is a month ahead of time and we are getting out there and actioning it a lot quicker than we thought we were going to. So I'd love to make a motion that Common Council adopt the Affordable Housing Action Plan.
Okay, and the seconder is Councillor Harris. On the question then, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, on to what? What's the next one?
Next item, Deputy Mayor, is 13.5, and it's a Finance Committee update on 2022 bilateral program projects, reserve funding, and pre-approval of 2023 utility program funding.
Okay, over to you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy. I'll move the motion. I'll move the recommendation in your kit, and if I have a seconder, I'll comment briefly. Thank you, Councillor. What you have before you is the 2022 bilateral program projects, reserve funding, and a pre-approval of 2023 utility program funding. This is a good example of how our financial planning is working for us in the city of St. John. In order to tender multiple projects in early October, supplemental funding is required for 2022 bilateral funded projects. The supplemental funding is being requested based on higher than expected tenders, supply chain issues, but because of our financial plan and our capital reserves, we are able to responsibly manage these projects. The recommendation in this report is required to get the tenders out and to capitalize on early aggressive bidding so that people can line up for next year. We have had great success over the past few years getting our tenders out early for capital projects, and this follows suit. If you have any questions about particular projects, we have Commissioner McGovern and Chief Engineer Mike Baker available to answer any questions. And the recommendation before you is to draw $470,000 from the capital reserve, reallocate a surplus of $170,000 to the bilateral projects, which our capital budget policy does allow, and to pre-approve utility fund 2023 supplemental funding for bilateral projects.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder on the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Motion's carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
Next item is another Finance Committee update. This one is with respect to Mayor and Council Professional Development Policy.
Okay, over to you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thanks again, Deputy. The recommendation I'll move is recommended that Common Council endorse FAS 027 Mayor and Council Professional Development Policy.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor. Okay, Harris.
Thanks, Deputy. Thank you, Councillor Harris. The policy, actually, I have to hand it to our finance staff. A month ago, we had a meeting. We had quite a discussion around the table, and one thing that was highlighted was the absence of a policy. At our next Finance Committee meeting, our staff had a draft policy in front of us to discuss, and that's what we have tonight. So it just oversights our suite of policies that we have in the Finance Department, and the policy looks at fair and equitable allocation of the budget. It sets criteria for eligible professional development activities. It eliminates red tape, especially of having to come to council every time there's a professional development opportunity, unless somehow we spend all of the budget and we have to do something that's outside of the policy. So if we approve this next year, if an opportunity comes up for a councillor that they want to take part in to the limit of their budget, they don't need to come to council. We have already looked after it through policy.
Okay, perfect. Questions? Oh, okay, on the question then, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
Next is item 13.7, another Finance Committee update with respect to grant policy.
Over to you, Councillor Sullivan.
It was a busy meeting last week. So 13.7 is recommended that Common Council approve FAS 023, the grant policy.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Huh? Oh, Councillor Radwan. Okay. Go ahead.
Thanks, Deputy. This is actually something that was on the city manager's work plan for 2022 for our finance crew. Tonight, the Finance Committee is recommending council approve of the policy that strengthens grant oversight with best practices in grant applications, grant eligibility criteria, grant evaluation practices, and grant reporting practices. The grant policy is an important policy for municipalities to have an open, fair, and transparent process for applicants and to evaluate the allocation of city funds. So in the end, the policy will ensure grant support our 10-year strategic plan, our priorities, and incorporate on focus areas that the city has. The recommendations on the floor.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, on the recommendation then, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
Deputy Mayor, next item is 13.8, Finance Committee update with respect to proposed funding plan for new recreation facility.
Okay, back to you, Councillor Sullivan.
So the recommendation's in the kit, but worth highlighting as I move it. 4 parts. One is to direct staff to include the draft 2023 general operating budget conditional upon satisfying service level requirements up to $3 million into a recreation facility capital reserve. 2, that Common Council resolve to allocate any annual general operating surpluses over the council term to a recreation facility capital reserve. 3, to direct staff to prioritize the pursuit of federal and provincial funding to support funding of a comprehensive recreational facility And 4, to direct the city manager to discuss the project with the Regional Service Commission to determine if there's regional interest.
Okay, do you have a second? Councillor Stewart? Okay, on the question?
Thanks, Councillor Stewart. And just in brief, it is one of our catalytic projects, and we haven't even got to the point where we know what it looks like yet. But we do know that these aren't cheap. And like any good household, if you are looking at a purchase down the road, you start putting money away so you don't buy it first and then figure out how to pay off the visa later. So this establishes a reserve fund for this catalytic project to move forward. And it does speak to things like looking at 1/3 funding. This is where our conversation with our other partners comes in. It does talk about up to $3 million based on meeting our service requirements and our operating budget. So it's a target, but we need to meet our operating commitments first. And it speaks to, if we have some money left at the end of the year, this is the bank account we're going to put it in so that we have some money. The question that will come when we're ready to build it is, how much money do you have ready to put into the project? And we want to be ready to have that money to put into the project once we have it defined. So that's what we have before us.
Okay, thank you. On the question then, Councillor Ogden.
A long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Stewart. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. And I do want to point out, because we talk about rinks and in this, we haven't even figured out what it is yet. So it could be rinks, it could be an indoor cricket pitch. We don't know yet, but certainly we have certainly heard a lot from the rink community in the city of St. John. I'm just excited about the conversation, but the prudent part of it is to make sure we have the money to pay for it. So thank you for that comment.
Good first step. Thank you. Okay, on the question then, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next item. Okay.
Next item is 13.9, and it's another Finance Committee submission with respect to 2023 and 2024 draft general and utility fund capital budget.
Okay, last time for you, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Deputy. This one's a straight up receive and file for tonight. With the seconder, I'll make a few brief comments.
Okay, Councillor Hickey.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. So what we have in front of us is the general fund and utility fund 2-year capital budgets. It's the first time we've done that, and this is part of finance goal to eventually have a long-term, up to 10-year capital budget so we can look forward. So what we have in our appendixes is our plan for the next 2 years, and it's a receive and file. Very excited that it's a 2-year capital budget. It really helps us to look into the future. I remember my first time on council, walking up Millage Avenue talking about asphalt sidewalks that were falling apart with one of our engineers. And I said, these really need to be fixed. He said, they are going to be fixed. And I said, when? He said, in 4.5 years. Because engineers had it planned out. They knew they were doing combined sewer separation on Millage Avenue. That's when they were going to tear up the road. It didn't make sense to tear it up, fix it, and then tear it up again. And sure enough, 4.5 years later, the road got rebuilt, the pipes got put in the ground, the sidewalks got redone. Our engineering staff is really good at having those plans out, and we are catching up as, I guess, the finance crew in helping put those plans in order. Because something else that our staff is really good at is when we have a plan on the books, they are always looking for partners and money. And if there's a grant fund out there that comes around and it's on our books, this plan is a, you see, it's $62.5 million plan, of which we are borrowing $18 million over the next 2 years, and $40 million is shares coming from our partners and other levels of government. So we are getting $60 million worth of work done in the city of St. John in 2 years. And because of our budget policies, because we have pay-as-you-go in our operating budget, we will only be borrowing $18 million to do that. So And this is, thanks, we have a great finance team from the committee, our staff, but also when you do a budget, it's everybody in the organization. So everybody has been involved and we thank them. So I am way off script, but just excited about it. The projects are listed in the kit. So I don't want to take the time to read them out, but certainly we have staff here to answer questions should council have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. You see the passion. That's what it's called. Okay, on the question then. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Next item, Congressman.
That was the final item.
Okay, well, before we adjourn, I just want to take a moment and thank staff tonight and councilors for their support. This has been a sort of a rocky night for me, being the first night for public hearings. But anyway, we got through it. So thank you all very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Lowe, Councilor Sullivan, all in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed, if any. Thank you.